like to be an architect that is considered a master builder. The details that you see around the property that we're in today are examples of what we do. They're highly detailed built. You really need to do a lot of research. You have to spend a lot of time thinking about the property, thinking about how to utilize it, where the sun angles are, where you want to wake up in the morning, where you should be spending times of the day that could be quiet and, you know, have more north light and more tranquil, peaceful rooms versus more active spaces. The way we live with our contemporary lifestyle, people want open spaces and they want it all to flow together, where you can sit in the living room and prepare a meal in the kitchen and communicate with people. But yet you don't want it to seem like it's just one big auditorium. So there has to be personality that's developed to those different spaces. Well, this building in particular, because of its siting and sitting up high, having ocean views of the Getty, and to a lot of parkland spaces where you're not really looking at a lot of houses from the rear yard, I think had a lot of challenges to try to focus your views through spaces and through sequence of materials that would allow you to look at aspects of those building ideas are things that I think were the bones in the structure of the building. I think coupled with that, we wanted to create a building that used very contemporary materials, standing seam metal roofs, coupled with warmer materials such as the Douglas fir straight grain wood that you see around the building here, mixed in with some stones that would be done in yet a very, very contemporary way. I like the idea of taking very polished materials and mixing them with rough materials and trying to create this synergy between those to give you this sense of, you know, modern yet a building that has a soul and has a sense of presence. For me, it's always first impression. What I look at when I see a building is I see a painting in front of me. And no matter what I might see from that point on, from the experiencing of walking through that front door, will never change my first impression of what that space was. The building itself, as it sits to the side, is actually L-shaped, trying to take advantage of, number one, the views, and number two, the exposures. We are actually experiencing in the location that we are a southwest exposure, which is really great for being able to bring light into the house and give a lot of sparkle to the space. And so what we did with this building being a part 1 story and part 2 story, this lazy L shape, as I refer to with the geometry that we created, the intersection of that is where we juxtaposed the 2-story tower. And that 2-story tower then actually creates a anchoring point for the building to take off from. We didn't just think these spaces up. We tried to develop them in such a way that you would imagine yourself spending time and enjoying the space. So, you know, I think timeless is a component of the building that's important to me. I don't want it to be trendy. That's the last thing I would want somebody to say about the building. I would want it to also be substantial. The building should have substance to it. You should feel like when you're here, you want to hang out in the space. You want to be part of that space. I think the other rudimentary things about developing a building like this are to create a dynamic space. You know, something that changes even with the sunlight and gives you this feeling like I won't grow tired of this, which is part of the timeless element of it. It's difficult to be within the city and have views of the Getty Museum, have views of downtown Los Angeles, have views of the ocean, and have views of a lot of parkland, which I personally find to be the most exciting aspect of it, not just looking at other housing developments, but really having an opportunity to commune a little bit with nature and see it out there. And I think that's a unique opportunity that is not easily found throughout the LA Basin. The Ball-Top Kitchen is an incredible feature to the building, and I think also this window system that you see here is a very unique window system. This is not a standard window system that you would see. It comes out of Vancouver. It's a quantum window system, and they're very specialized. And they have very beautiful detailing. For example, the sliding glass door systems just have a very single rail in the ground with the free flow of the tile material flowing straight through it. As we start to become more cognizant of needing to be more concerned about our environment and the world that we live in, I think it's important to embrace these elements. We have about an 8-foot overhang on this building all the way around the perimeter, which allows the sun to come in the winter, as you will see by the shadows on the ground today, which is when you want to heat the space with sun, because our sun angles are much lower in the winter time. They're 50, 54 degrees, as opposed to the summer where they're very high. They're 78 degrees or so, and that sun then is being cut off by those long overhangs and not allowing the sun to beat directly on the glass and heating up the inside of the space. So we're warming the space naturally in the winter and keeping it cool naturally in the summer by having that overhang. You open some of the operable windows around the perimeter of the building, and then you open the clear stories up at the top of that, the building will naturally evacuate the heat in the summertime. And so I tell clients, leave those windows open 7-8 months out of the year when we have warm weather. They will actually naturally evacuate the heat out of the space. Siding is on the outside of the building is a Mangaris, which is a very dense wood. It's a wood that's being used for longevity, not for the inexpensiveness of it, because it's quite an expensive material to utilize. But we do pride ourselves on finding this stuff out of farms, where it's harvested from farms and not from rainforests. And it's not often that you have an opportunity to work on a project where somebody wants to make a building have as many timeless components as this does. It's extremely well built. It's very well thought out. The materials are very simple and can be visualized as things that have been used from architects as far back as Irving Gill, who precedes Frank Lloyd Wright, to Frank Lloyd Wright, to Neutra. This type of building that we did here is something that I think will be an icon building of the future, and will be something that is looked upon where it doesn't need to be upgraded and doesn't need a facelift. And that's a great tribute to both the client and the architect. And so I was fortunate to be able to be in the right place at the right time to do a project like this.